Hello, this is Danny Gibson, Director of Coaching with Oklahoma Rangers and Head Coach at Oklahoma City FC, and you're listening to another episode of the Mass Futbol Podcast.
Yo, welcome back to the Mass Futbol Podcast, the number one soccer podcast here in Oklahoma City. I am your host, Ricardo Ulloa, and I am here at the nice Legacy Real Estate Group. Shout out to the sponsors. You know what they do. Buy, sell, investing in house. I definitely recommend you to go for them. They are taking care of me and they will definitely take care of you. But I do have a special guest here with me today. I'm not here by myself. I have the Director of Coaching for the Oklahoma Rangers FC, as well as a USAO graduate, 07, 12, all the way from East, I hope I'm saying this correctly, Renfrewshire, Scotland.
There you go.
Danny Gibson.
Good stuff. But appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. Normally hear booze, but
Really?
around the plot. Yeah. Most hated man in youth soccer.
No. You think so?
No, maybe. No, I don't know.
Nah. You want to hold the mic up just a little bit closer?
Yeah, I got you.
Danny, how are you today?
Good, man. Good. Yeah, good to see you. It's been a while.
It's been a good minute.
Yeah.
I remember we used to bump into you a lot when you were the what was it? You used to be the community relations manager at Energy FC.
Energy FC, yeah.
And now you're doing the director of coaching at Rangers. But before we open up and unpack this podcast, can you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about what you do?
No, absolutely. Yeah. So you kind of mentioned East Renfrewshire. It's been a while since I heard that. So south side of Glasgow, where I grew up. Kind of fell in love with the game. I suppose 5 years old. I think I got my first Scotland strip and a goal for Christmas. After that was like just in love with the game. Grew up playing all the time. You're a little bit, I think, younger than I am, maybe.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Look, when I was doing my research, I noticed that you were at USAO when I was at Mid-America.
Okay.
So we went up by two. I'm a 91, but...
Gotcha. Not too bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah,
we won't say your year if you
right.
don't want to.
I don't even remember.
No.
Too many kids, and I can barely remember. But it's kind of that, we kind of grew up in that evolution from the industrial age into the internet type of thing. So we were still out in the streets, so playing all the time, ball at your feet all the time. So that's kind of how we grew up playing. All, everything here is very organised, which is great to an extent, which employs a lot of people like myself. But just kind of grew up playing, kicking the ball all the time. Following Glasgow Rangers, the team I supported. Always wanted, it was a dream to play. So kind of got into more organised boys club. I guess that's more grassroots, recreational. Good little club called Giffnock North, local town. You basically went to whoever was your closest, and then from there, some of the professional clubs, they would get money from the association, so the Scottish Football Association. So soccer was free, so they would send scouts to certain games. So I think I was maybe 11 or 12, got picked up by Queen's Park, which they're actually, they're kind of interested in, they're in the professional tiers in Scotland, but they're the only amateur team in the professional tiers, but they're kind of known for having a really good youth system. Andy Robertson at Liverpool, he started at Queen's Park, so it was there around a year, got released actually after a year, which was kind of surprising to myself when we sat down kind of room like this and had that conversation. I felt I was one of the stronger players, but at the time they told me it's your attitude, you have it, and so I've always had a chip on my shoulder. Anybody that knows me, played against me, coached against me, has probably reffed a game that I've been on, can probably say that. But at the time I didn't really understand the attitude. It was more so if I did something wrong, a misplaced pass, or I would be frustrated, and then the frustration would maybe come out in anger, a bad tackle, or maybe speaking back to somebody, and so I was like, okay, I need to do better on that side, and went back to boys club for a little bit, played for East Renfrewshire. They kind of had a select team, which was a few steps below the national team, where you would kind of play. You do select schools and stuff, and so played with East Ren, and a coach at the time was Craig Mulholland, and he's now the academy director at Rangers. So he was way ahead of his time, like really really knew his stuff and was trying to introduce new progressive things. So I really enjoyed that, to be fair, and he helped me get back into the pro youth side. So I ended up at Hamilton Academicals, which is they were championship at the time, which is below the first tier professional in Scotland. Didn't really know much at the time, but over the years they've really produced a lot of good players. So I was fortunate to be a part of that 3-4 years till I was about 18, 19, and then they actually got promoted into the professional, into the top tier, into the Premiership, and at that time signing more players, and it was just kind of, we never really had that official chat like, we're not bringing you back in, but the writing was kind of on the wall. So at that point, it's like I'll explore other options. I kind of kicked about some second, third division teams and had a few offers on the plate. Then I had a boy that lived on the end of my street, Gary Muir. He came across to the US. I think he went to Lindsay Wilson, but he went to JUCO first, and I think he ended up over there. So he was like, you got to get out here. I was playing.
At that point, you wanted to continue your career.
That was the goal. It wasn't education. Of course, I value that now. And
education's important, but
of course,
I definitely understand you when you say that ball was life at that point.
Yeah, just chasing it, and so I was like, no, absolutely. So,
had you ever considered America for football at that time, or was that ever an option, or at that point was when it became an option? Yeah,
just. Funnily enough, I actually have family in Houston. My granddad was an engineer, and he came across, and so my aunt was like 17 at the time, so she came with my granddad, where my dad stayed back in Scotland. He was obviously started his career and family and stuff, so she met her husband and had kids and stuff, so they established down in Houston. So we'd been across a couple of times, but again, it was never really consideration, more of a come out vacation and visit family. So
then you bit the bullet and decided to come, or how did that play out?
Yeah. I was on trial at Stirling Albion at the time. Again, I think second division in Scotland, and their youth director, David Binney, he was part of the First Point USA, which is like a agency, that sends kids out. A lot of guys that end up at Mid America, USA, all these places go through certain agencies. So we got chatting one day after a game. He's like, "You've ever considered this?" And so kind of signed up for the agency, played a few games. They filmed them, clipped them, all that stuff.
I feel like that's a pretty huge industry.
Yeah,
foreign, just out of the US, to be able to just send to the US.
Yeah. And it was at the time it wasn't as big as it is now. I don't think it was a little more specialised, and they were maybe looking for those one or two players that they feel could maybe go make an impact. Like I think we played a little select team from First Point. I think it was Stanford came across. Maybe it was one of the D1 groups, and I think we ended up beating them 3-1 or something like that. So it was like guys that could play and could go make impact in the programs and stuff. So then a couple of offers came in. I had to set my SATs, and also we spoke about education is important. My scores weren't unbelievable, so it kind of almost knocked a few options out. Almost ended up in Tennessee, and then there was a school in Florida. Wow. And then USAO. So I spoke to a few of the coaches and got Hampton on the phone. I was like,
this guy sounds like when I spoke to him too, it was hard not to feel like he could make me run through a wall, and he wasn't even my coach. That guy's the real deal. You're a family member.
Right, that's right.
That's funny.
Uncle Hams.
Yeah, Uncle Hams. He did mention that.
Yeah, don't call him that to his face, but yeah, behind his back, it's like a running joke. So,
that's funny.
But no, he the way he discussed the game, and here's how we see that you would fit into our system, and here's the way we do things. And I thought, this sounds like a bit of me. He's switched on. He understands the game just from a 5-minute call. So it was like, all right, don't know much about Oklahoma. It's not too far from Texas. And, yeah, let's do it. And
showed up to Chickasha, and I guess you did all 4 years at USA Open.
Yeah. I never really considered anything else. The only thing I would maybe change, and it's maybe a recommendation people coming over, is almost give yourself that year. I wish I'd redshirted my first year. Just to, I was a late arrival. I can't really remember. I think something to do with visa. So I was maybe a week, 2 weeks late for pre-season. So you just arrive, you get all your classes. I just feel maybe a semester early, come in and get
acclimated.
Yeah,
because it's totally different.
Even speaking to some of the kids I used to coach that are going to big schools like OSU, had a kid tell me that she's going early. She's basically given up a chance to win state cup again, type of thing. She goes to Deer Creek because she's going to go into Oklahoma State early and get acclimated, get training, get around, try and get up to level so that.
Which is can be tough because how old is she? Maybe like 17, 18. That's still really young considering 17 and 18 playing against 19, 20-year-olds is just a big difference. The body, speed, power. And you're right. I feel like a lot would benefit from just redshirting that first year, but who's there to tell us that is even an option? You know what I mean? But now you're as a director of coaching, you can come from that perspective.
Right.
Would you, for that person, maybe say, I would see why it would benefit her to just, I guess, what would she have to do then in that? Just redshirt, go to school, get your credits in while you're also playing competitive, or how does that? Right. How would that work?
I wonder. Obviously, the D1 schools have all different regulations and rules and stuff. So, but my thought would be that she likely still play club and train, and I think they'll still train in the off season at OSU and schools like that. So they'll probably be going 2-3 times a week, weight training. Maybe just getting herself more physically prepared, speed of play and everything to. When freshman year starts,
just get your foot started, because that's such a big going from first year in America, and how just different it was going from high school, a little bit of club, and then just seeing everybody just a lot bigger than you, a lot faster than you. Right. The game is just going by you, and you have to catch up. So I would see why that first year of redshirting would be so beneficial. And it's funny you say that, because I've also heard that even holding back your son academically does wonders for you.
Right.
But then we're getting into the conversation of how boys are compared to girls, because some studies show that boys develop a little bit later than girls do, and girls are a little bit more organized, and academically they're more inclined than the boys are. So there's just that whole right and left foot that we were just talking about it, how kids start school too early.
Right.
But that's an interesting point to bring up.
Yeah, because rolled up to Chickasha and just driving away from city lights, like in the darkness, arrived in the evening, and then I think next day they were training. I had to go and get physical, so then I go out to the practice field. My first visual, Hampton, no shoes on, no socks on the middle of the field, taking free kicks into Broca, a big Brazilian goalkeeper, and I'm like, where? And to be fair, he was putting them, top corner, but I'm like, what is going on here? And he's like, you want to jump in? I had a corner, first corner, shanked it out of bounds. I'm like, second corner, not bad. And then it was like, all right, we're up and running. And once you're around the team, everything was good. But I do remember sitting across, like I'm from you, the accent. I'm probably going to get caned on this accent. Like the boys back home will see this, and I'll just get absolutely ruined because absolute transatlantic accent now. But I remember speaking to a girl, and she, asking where you're from, and she had no idea what I was saying to her. I was trying to say it as slowly as possible. I remember going back to the hotel room for my mum, like close to tears, like I don't know if I can do this. I can't even speak to people, can't communicate.
And you're speaking English.
Yeah. What language do you speak in Scotland? Like, it's English, kind of. We barely speak English, but yeah.
That's funny. And then at what point did you say, who was on that team at that time? Yeah,
so freshman year was funny. We had our leadership was a guy, John Ullman. He was captain. Terry Adamson, Pindon Nijar. He's actually the assistant in San Francisco now. He's doing really well. But the funny thing was John. He lived off campus. He lived in Turtle at the time. So we were very young, like very, very young. We the recruiting class, my freshman year, myself, Frank Gibson from Scotland, Jake and James Corridge, and then a lot of Brazilian lads. They brought in it. So it was almost a bit of a
just a hodgepodge of the world.
Yeah. They went heavily. So Junior Barrios, he's at South Lakes, doing a really good job there. He was a fantastic player. He was kind of the from that class of Brazilians. Now there was some older classmen that had great athletic careers and done really well, but Junior was kind of the one that managed to stick in. It was kind of, his style was a little bit more. He was very aggressive, defensive, kept the ball well. Really tough to get the ball off of him. So he kind of survived. There was almost, it's that battle, and then who kind of came out the other side, and it was just a bit of a culture, I'm sure, for them coming across as well. Such a different culture, and Hampton coach is very structured and very specific way, and it's probably very different from coming from Brazil and creativity and everything else. So I think we went 8-8, freshman year. So it was tough. It was difficult. We had Dusan Rasovic and Nico. Nico's actually back. He was in Kansas. He's back in Edmond now, coaching from Serbia. The two of them are fantastic players, like top level players. So we did have some talent, but we were very, very young, so it was kind of getting through that freshman year, and then, the next year we started, to figure some things out, and just like you were saying there, like who's to tell you what to do. So after that second year, when the freshmen were now coming in, it's like, all right, here's how things are going to be. Whereas, not that we were left alone, but with John being captain, and I think he had a daughter at the time. He had like the best freshman year of all time. Got a girl pregnant, then married her. Then I think he got divorced.
Wow.
So he had a whole lot going on, Old Omen. But so we just didn't have that, like, don't be stupid, like all the stupid things that you learn when you're a college kid.
Would you have listened if somebody had told you, though? And that's the problem.
Right. Yeah, no, that's part of it. I think, of course, I look at 18, 19-year-olds now, I'm like, the kids, and we thought we had it all figured out, so.
Yes. And then, I guess, 2007 and 2012, I remember speaking to Coach Hampton, and he said that the boys team, at least, went on a good run at probably the era that he calls it. Was that between 10, 14?
Yeah. So my senior year was 2010. We went to nationals. I think we got last 16 and last 8. I think we were a goal away from. I think it was the last 8. I think we were a goal away from the
Elite 8.
Yeah. So we had a really good year, and actually the year before we were probably a little stronger, but we'd come out of nowhere almost. Second year was building, and then third year we had a really good year. Surprised a few people, and back then, Oklahoma City University was really strong. A lot of the Liverpool lads were there, Spen Love and Stuart Houghton, and there was a lot of good players. Snoo were actually, I think they transitioned out of the league at some point, but
they were still there. Oklahoma Christian. I had a few English lads as well.
Yeah, and then Macu was.
We only had one. We had Andrew. That's it. We had Webster. He was a beast as was.
What a boy.
Yeah.
He's a top boy.
And then after you graduated, what did you do after you graduated? Did you just jump right into coaching? Did you know you wanted to get into coaching, or?
Yeah, no, I really didn't, and I hear this all the time. Like, I wish I'd paid more attention to it and coached more, or maybe got started on the licensing path or whatever it is. Because when you're a player, you just want to play. I just give me the ball, and I want to get on it, and I want to make these runs, but. Coach, here's a structure, and I just never remember really paying too much attention to it. The one thing where a light bulb went off a little bit, we played. It was that senior year. We had to go down to Brownsville in Texas, kind of right on the border of Mexico, and it was funny, the story. They were unbeaten all year. Really strong team, really international, kind of similar to ourselves. And they had to move the location of the home game because the cartels across the border were in gun battles with the police. And so bullets had hit the home field. So where are we going? Way down here. So they moved the location, like police escort off the bus onto the field, and Hampton was we're playing 5-3-2 as a formation, and I think he told this story. It was the 3 or 4 of the lads got caught cheating in a test, and they starters, Gavin from he was an African lad, great centre mid, Nico and Dushan, superb players. We ended up having to go without them right back. I was a winger, so he's good at right back. I don't know about this, but so he's drilled it into us tactically, and we won 3-0 down there, easy. Could have been a few more, and they were very good, but it was just they couldn't quite figure out.
You guys were clicking that day.
Yeah, what we were in, it worked. It was it was. I was like, wow, that was like. I think we tactically won the game. I think we're probably pretty evenly matched talent wise, but the tactics of, I'm like, that was the kind of first time, believe it or not, I really took notice. Like, I
agree. No, definitely. That's how at least I was, because it's very hard to take the player and kind of just take him out of himself to kind of think of where everyone else is at and the formations and your tactics compared to if you're the right winger, what's your right back doing? How are you guys being cohesive? And you almost have to watch film to be able to be like, pause, Danny, look what you did here.
Right.
Look at your options. What could you have done better?
Right.
And then you kind of retrospectively say, you're right.
Yeah.
The light bulb goes off. It's not like when you play FIFA and you see the whole 7 men just right there, and you can see that, okay, if I switch it, no. You have to, like you said, just drill it in your head. And I think for me, and maybe even for a lot of other players, that's probably the hardest part to do, because athletic-wise, you can run through a wall.
Right.
Stop somebody, you can stop somebody if you want to. The ball's going to get by you, but the player won't. But tactically, that's just another ball game.
Right. No, so it was definitely interesting, and it had impact. It worked. It was even, I was certainly more attacking wise. We had Sam Shattuck, who another Scottish lad. He'd come as a forward. Hampton gave him a couple of games as forward, and super athletic. Like Sam would go run miles and miles, but he just didn't have that knack for goal. He just wasn't that natural goal scorer. So Hampton started playing him right back, left back, and nobody could get by him. He just ran all day long. So he was on the left side of that 5, but he kind of sat in. So I released, but I had a little bit more time and space rather than having the left back right on me. I was kind of operating in between. So I got a lot of the ball, was able to have some impact, and so no, it was good.
So then the light goes off, and you start seeing, formations work. It's not just 11. What do you do then? Yeah,
well, funnily enough, so graduated, had no intention of coaching. I'd done a few camps, and honestly, I didn't.
Did you have intentions of staying in Oklahoma?
Yeah. So at that point, met my wife at USL. She played on the women's team. Really good player, much better than me. So it's Hampton's niece. That's where they joke, like, they're like, you really dating Hampton? Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but yeah. She got pregnant just after we graduated. So we got married. We actually did a little courthouse wedding before Liliana was born, and then a year later we did a big wedding. A lot of friends, family came across to Oklahoma City. Went to Vegas, bachelorette party before. So no, it was good time. So it
sounds like you had a whole American wedding thing.
Big time, big time.
How different would it have been if it was in Scotland?
Yeah, I mean, I think party wise probably similar. Like everybody, Brittany's family, her dad's he's half Mexican, so he likes to have a good time, some cervezas, and so we just had that was the main goal of it. Like let's have a good time, get the families together, and so no, it would have been good. It would have been a little different, a little colder, and but no, it was big fun. So we kind of had those goals to set on, start sending out job applications and get one back from Xerox. I had a little bit of sales experience when I was playing part-time in Scotland and knocking on doors selling. So I was like, I'll go into sales, selling for Xerox, selling copy and printers, and I was like, the money was okay. We're getting by, but
it's like I said to JB, there's nothing that we know more than soccer. So
right. Yeah, it was never too far. Always and I reached out to Hampton, like, listen, I kind of want to get into coaching. He said, like, the best thing is Orsi, who was the assistant at USCO, still is on the men's side. He's got a couple of teams need some help. It's like, well, brilliant, I'll jump in. So, you know, I tell guys this all the time because they come out of college or they want to coach. Oh, this team's not good enough, or I want a first team, or, you know, I jumped in with helped Orsi, and it was great for me because I was able to learn, you know, how he communicated, how he structured, how he did things, how maybe I would do things differently. But, you know, I think I was getting like $300 a month or something.
People think that once they want to start coaching, maybe starting coaching is easy, but the pay is never great,
right?
You know, but we're not there for the pay, really, you know. So yeah, I definitely understand. That's one of my wife says, go coach. We got not that easy, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
We got bills to pay. We got time, you know. It takes up a lot of time.
For sure, it does. Yeah.
So,
No, it's big sacrifice. So no, that was kind of starting, and I was like, I'm enjoying this. Yeah. It's really good, but still working 9 to 5. Would go there after, and then the energy role came up. And at the time, I was like this miserable, calling people, trying to sell them copy. You know, I'd be calling Legacy Real Estate and going, hey, you know, who do you get your copy from? I don't know, I don't care.
I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. And they're like, use the accent. It's like, even with the accent, you know, they don't want to talk. So the energy deal came up, and, you know, when I spoke to Jason Hawkins, I was like, well, it's an opportunity to work in the game. It's not. I told him at the time, like, I would love any chance to get on the field, or if there's coaching opportunities, and you know, we're starting to try and figure out the 23s and, you know, how they can maybe get into the youth side. So I'm like, listen, let's get me involved, and then, you know, if there any other opportunities come up, then let's do it, because you know, it was never my goal to be community relations, which I enjoyed that. I thought it was, you know, it was great for the time, but at that time I was like, you know, kind of get into coaching.
Sounds like a hard job to do, the community relations, because you're everywhere. We run into you at every court opening,
right?
And there you are, just bringing the football to just random kids, trying to organize kids that don't want to get organized. And then, don't get me wrong, it's not that bad, but it is kind of just you never know what to expect. Right.
And it's like that type of staffing as well. We were just putting it out to 20, 30 people. Can somebody make this event, please? And fortunately enough, that one of the teams I coached with RC, and it so happened that the tryouts, he had a parent complaint, and RC gets worked up at times. So he's like, I'm done with this group. I was supposed to take the 98 boys, which were a great group, a lot of good kids. He said, you take the 97s, I'll do the 98. So okay. So Caleb rolled on, and Nick Noble. There was a load of good players. Mono played there. Christian Hernandez came over. Caleb's cousin, goodness me, I forgot his name. Right back, was a really good player.
This is what club is this?
OEFC.
OFC.
It was OFC at the time. Yeah, okay. Oklahoma Football Club. So we had a really good. It was a 97 second group. Feely had the first group, and some real talent on that team. You know, Garrett McLaughlin still playing Lamar, and all of them playing on that group. So no, it was fun. So we each had a great time. That was kind of my first test of, listen, you're a head coach, you know, the leadership and getting them going, getting them structured. But they had a great time. We had a good culture. We got after. I think we President Cup final, State Cup final and stuff. So no, it was a really good first group. Parent group were amazing. Gabby Noble, that's it. She's president of NOKC and heavily involved with the energy, and she was a manager, so it was kind of seamless to get to know the lay of the land and everything else. So after that, it was like, you know, kind of caught the bug, like, oh, let's get better, let's get on the licensing path, and just try and be
best you can.
Yeah, that's right.
And then how long were you there for? Like at 7, 8?
Yeah, I think it's probably 9-10 years. Was it OFC, then the transition to OEFC. Working with the energy. Ended up doing some assistant side played at OKCFC when they had that PDL group. Then the following year they went, I think it was MPSL. So I was assistant with Hampton and RC on that group. So again, that was kind of a taste of more senior level. And then with the energy, kind of got my feet in there a little bit with John Perlman and helped him on the 23s as well. So I was just always trying to
soak up everything that you could.
And Steve Cook and Danny Stone, Lexi, they were great, because I kind of shared that with them, like, listen, I don't want to be putting inflatables up, I want to be on the field. So, you know, off season I was out there with them and just trying to learn as much as possible. So got on the, like I said, the license path, my A-youth license now, which you know, it's kind of like, well, what's next? I think want to maybe get on the UEFA path, and I've got some of my Scottish FA badges, and you know, would like to maybe go do some more. So it's just always trying to learn and improve.
Is the licensing process easier in Scotland than it is here? I remember when I was speaking to the coach, the girls' coach at Southwestern Christian, and he had explained to me that the licensing process in Mexico is a little bit easier.
Right.
It's a little bit quicker, and it's a little bit different.
Right.
Do you have any knowledge on the licensing experience on there in Scotland? Yeah. Or is it all just under the UEFA umbrella?
Yeah, I don't think it's too dissimilar. I don't think it's not as expensive as it is in the US. A little bit more cost effective. I do know that the SFA, you know, Scottish football is not across the world viewed as the highest, but the coaching education piece of it is very highly regarded. You know, Mourinho and Pochettino, and you know, a lot of these guys came through there. Obviously, you got Alex Ferguson, that, you know, maybe considered the best ever.
Is he from Scotland?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so outside of Glasgow, not maybe 10-15 minutes from where I grew up. So yeah,
that's
so
legendary right there. I need to read that book. I've heard a lot of great things about that book.
Brilliant, really good.
Have you read it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I try and keep up with a lot of things that Sir Alex has done. Just being from kind of same part of the world as I'm from, and just how he is as a leader. And you know, I read the one recently where Harvard Business School basically brought him in for 10 days and
just
you know,
pick his brain.
Yeah, pick his brain on how you be a leader, how do you organize a huge organization like, you know, Man United, and you know, how do you get people on side and
how to motivate. What did you pick up? What's the few things that you picked up from?
Yeah, there's so much. It's almost like one of those things where you could clip them every 30 seconds.
Create a course.
And create a quote. I think a lot of it, observation. He talks about we're taking a step back, and I struggle with that a lot. Even as a director now, I'll just do it. You know, I want it done right, so I'll just jump in and do it. Whereas he said he took a step back and was more so that the manager have a first team coach, and obviously he's had so many first team coaches at Man United that went on to be top managers themselves, but that he more so observe, be able to see the players' body language and how they were responding, how hard they were working and stuff like that. And then obviously a lot of it was how to motivate, get to know the human, what makes this person tick, and you know, some of that's probably gone, especially on the youth side. You have to be very cognizant of how you speak. I think he kind of ruled with an iron fist, like it's his way.
Yes, I mean, at that level, you kind of can. Sure. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's one of the things that I picked up listening from interviews from other players, is that he was very keen on what you said, observation, but also knowing how to motivate your players, because everyone needs to be spoken to a little bit differently. So as opposed to where if you're going to challenge this but you can put this guy down. And I think a lot of the stuff that he was really good at is also understanding kind of like the atmosphere of the team, knowing that if I was going to grill you, it was going to work for everyone else. Right. I'd be like, hey, Danny, I'm going to grill you for a second, but it's for a purpose. Yeah. You know, send a message to everybody else out. Yeah. And that's how it is. And now I was curious how you in a position of leadership for other coaches, like how do you handle that? Because you probably get bombarded with all the coaches' problems, and it's just kind of like, hey, Danny, give me some advice. Like, I have kids who aren't listening to me. I'm dealing with parents. I remember when I was speaking to, I have all these names of all the guests that I have, and I'm just turning blank. Yeah. But
gotta write them down on this wall.
I do. He was coaching with you, Adam, and he said he had brought up the funny story about, towards the end of his tenure there, he kind of just got tired of, you know, just having to put up the face and just being up front with them. And he just the one story that stuck out to me was the Google Me story.
I know, unreal. I can't believe he said that.
And just like, Google me, and like, what do you do? What do you do? Because the parents coming up to you and say, hey, this guy's being an asshole. Yeah, I told him X, Y, Z, and all he said was Google me.
Right.
And then I always said there's always three sides to a story. There's yours, there's mine, and there's the truth. But as the leadership role, you have to listen to the parent. You got to listen to your coach, and you have to find that in between. Like how do you do that? How are you coping with that? How are you figuring that out?
Just always learning every day, to be honest. But you know, with the Adam deal, coming from the club he was at, he was burnt out on the role. I think he'd given a lot, and but I knew obviously his value and his worth. And then, you know, speaking to the players, love him. You know, would work hard for him. The sessions are really good. You know, anytime I walk past, saying the right things, and running good structured training sessions, and really pushing, trying to get the most out of the players. So it's like, you just balance it at that point. He's probably not gonna you know, overly communicate with the parents, but it's maybe just having that understanding. And unfortunately, on most of his teams, we had one or two parents that I could communicate with, and he did too, who could kind of soften that a little bit. Oh, okay, here's what's happening, and here's what we're doing. But you know, almost going back to like the sales, everything is sales and communication. Really, how well do you communicate? You know, the product that you're trying to provide. And I had that with coaches. It was one of my first meetings. I had a lot of pushback, like, well, hold on, are we coaching the parents or the players? Like, well,
both. Yeah, the parents pay the bills, you know.
They have to be an ally. You got to get them on side, so that when they leave the game, you know, they're not speaking ill of the coach, and because that internalizes in the players, and it almost becomes an excuse on the field. Like, well, mum and dad, you know, don't think that this coach is up to much.
Coaches are great, you know, so I can just kind of half-ass it. How different is that from the football you experienced in Scotland? Because you brought up that conversation you had when you sat down at a table like this. And you sat in front of the row of coaches, and it's kind of like your evaluation. Sure. I've seen clips of that on some page I follow on TikTok. I think it's it might be Queen's Park Rangers who does that, or someone else. But regardless, every kid, I feel like, goes through that evaluation phase where they sit down, the coaches tell you how you did that year, and it's either we're going to pick you up or we're going to drop you. Right. And that comes with a lot of stress, but I feel like that's a little different from here, you know, because it almost is like a service here. Yeah. You know, the football here. As to opposed over there, you shut up wanting to play, and I guess there isn't, I don't know, I guess we have a luxury here of being able to let you know that, hey, I don't like the way you spoke to me today. Right. As opposed to over there. Is that how it rolls over there, or is it just... Yeah,
very little parent involvement. You know, mum and dad would take me. I remember once I'd get old enough, I'd be on the train and the bus, 45 minutes to get myself from Hamilton, which from where I was living to Hamilton, and there'd be 2 or 3 other boys. We would all meet up and do that. So the involvement was in that meeting, really, like, okay, we're going to re-sign him, or we're going to give him a 2-year deal here, and you know, whatever the case was. So I think clubs have gotten better back home in terms of communicating throughout the year, and I even see some things about kind of exit meetings, trying to set them up with what's next, because you know, you see some of these boys are in the academy all their life, and then
dreams get shattered,
didn't make it. So what now? So I think, you know, there's an emphasis on that, and that's kind of that 4 kind of pillars of the game, like technical, tactical, physical, and then, you know, the mental side. That I think there's a whole lot more focus around that, especially in young men, you know, 18 to 35. Like it's so important. So it's just a different system, and not to say it's better, but
it's just different.
Yeah, culturally, I think, like you said, there's that will, I want to be a part of this, and they have that luxury of, well, you know, if there's a problem, or it's not like, well, we have another 500 players out here that we can go scout, we can go look at, that would want to have this opportunity. So
would that be because here, you said it, that I guess in Scotland it was kind of funded through that professional pyramid, as opposed to here where we have to pay to play.
Yeah.
That dynamic right there, just right there, is already enough to where if the coach says it, that's the rules, as opposed to here. Well, I pay for my son to be here, and if you're not doing a good job for me, I'll go take him to Cosmos or whatever it might be.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's kind of the battle we face all the time, and you have to sympathise. Like parents do pay. My little 2012 team, they are all over the place. Texas. We were up in St. Louis. They went to Utah in the summer. They're investing a lot in it. So then, my kids only played 10 minutes that half, Danny. Like, what? In those conversations we have to navigate, and you sympathise with it, but at the same time, at the very top of my responsibility is to create, the best
develop players.
Yeah, soccer players possible, and we want to do that holistically and make sure we're, having some influence on how they are in society and how they're behaving, and of course we focus on those things because the reality is the majority of them won't be that 1% player, but that's got to be the goal surely as a director of coaching and kind of the leader in player development within the club. Like, we want to really develop the best players possible. So no, it's a challenge, and I do remember when the Energy, they introduced we're going to put our branding on OFC Canadian Valley, which is now us, and Blitz at the time, so it was East, West, and Central. It was like mass suggestion, and there was a whole lot of heads in the room, smart people focused on the business, the ticketing. But for me, Energy fund one team per age group, and if you're just going to do the boys side, then maybe a group like Oklahoma City FC could potentially do something on the girls side, and then you guys can go scout and select, and what that then does for the rest of us, it doesn't put us out of business, but people might want to come to Oklahoma Rangers if we're developing them and they're getting this opportunity to, because you've come up on a good foundation, you got a good technical expertise, and you're comfortable, you're creative, whatever the case may be, you might have that opportunity. But because we're not there, and everybody has we're elite, no, we're elite. No one's really.
If everyone's elite, then who is elite?
Right. And obviously the ECNL leagues and stuff, it separates that a little bit, but there's obviously an exclusivity to that as well. And
I know throw in MLS Next as well, which is another exclusivity as well.
Yeah. So I think that's the structure. That's the way to do it. All the other clubs for me would still survive, probably thrive, because there's less of that competition. They still would still go on, I'm sure. Like, well, you should come over here. You get a better opportunity, but I just feel like that would be the way to solve a lot of the issues. And like you said, if you got 10 minutes playing time, or you don't like this coach, then you go down the road. But long term, what message does that send?
It does. I definitely agree with that. But I mean, I also look at it this way too. If you go to a church and you just aren't getting the message from the priest,
right?
And you find out that the priest that delivers the message a little better, then you might benefit from it that way.
Yeah.
But you are right. What message are you sending if you don't like if you don't like the temperature of this water? Eventually you're just going to try all of them, and you might just find that nothing is going to work for you. Mm-hmm. Is it the water's fault, or is it you that just aren't dealing with it? So I wholeheartedly agree.
No, and that's kind of been since I went across. If we have a kid that we can no longer service, that we're not able to challenge them, we can't surround them with like for like players, or they're not getting the competition on the weekends, then it's our responsibility. Let's try and find that kid a place to go. So that's kind of course we don't want to be pushing our kids out the club, but until we can have access to certain leagues, or then that's kind of, for me, that's part of the goal. So yeah, I think an even playing field would be ideal for, when US Soccer gave up the DA, coached in that for 1 year prior to coming over to Rangers. Everything was then up for grabs. Like US Soccer was kind of no longer had a hold on youth soccer. I know they partner with USYS, and there's all the different
I need to get more informed with that because just listening to people gets me. There's so many acronyms for so many different leagues, and it does not make sense to me.
No.
To me,
right.
I need to look at it in a paper or something, but it just sounds like a mess.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of where I was going with it. I think back in the day, every team's in the same association. They're playing the same league. So if Rangers blue team wins their league, they get to go play in the next league, and if we win the top league, then we can go compete regionally with the Texas groups and see how we do there. And if we win that, you can maybe go compete nationally type of thing, and then we get all our kids in ODP and we push that, and now it's very, very separate. And
there's like 3 teams from the same year winning state, so who really won state? Right. There's the President's Cup. There's probably another pair of cups as well. So.
Yeah. It's a bit of a saturation, and my mindset on it is let's play anybody, anywhere, it doesn't matter what who we're affiliated with and what league. Like we're talking about kids playing. So why we tell them to go drive 2 hours to get a game when we're 15 minutes down the road.
From another club.
Yeah.
That's very true. I'm curious. Was Rangers something that you started here, the Oklahoma Rangers FC, or what's the inception story behind that?
Yeah. So mentioned DA there. So came out a year doing that, and was speaking to kind of leadership at OEFC. They said, "Listen, I'm going to take a step back. We're going to coach coming in. He's going to come." So I was a little frustrated, just transparency with that, because I felt I sacrificed a lot, and you're training 3-4 times a week in Florida, Colorado.
Just to have somebody else bump and take your team. I've had a couple conversations with a few coaches at different clubs that have had something similar to that experience, or they get a new coach coming in and they get a club team or the competitive team, and they're stuck still doing rec even though they've been there for 2 years. Like it's frustrating. Yeah. And now being on the other side of it, I understand there's decisions that are sometimes made, and it's not to take stuff. No, not looking at it from the DLC spot.
Yeah, but at the time, I'm like, man, come on, what's happening here? So it wasn't an instant decision, but I'd seen this role, OEFC West director, kind of advertised for a couple of weeks now. That's interesting, but no. I hadn't made contact, I hadn't stuck my resume in as of yet, and then just coming out of that, and I was like, you look at it, and I'm sure coaches do the same at my club. Where's the room to grow here? Like the leadership positions at the time were very secure. Guys that had been there for years who had earned the right. So I'm just thinking, I'm on my license. I've kind of gone through all this. I've done the DA. I've worked with the kind of semi-pro side. So I'm like, well, where's the room to grow? So I threw my name in the hat and went for the interview, and Hampton was a call again. There was a few calls I made, like, what do you think about this? I've been offered this role. Fortunately, I think that made a good impression in the interview, and I had good conversation with the people, and I was like, I like the vision and what you guys are trying to do. I'd said for years and years that if Mustang, Yukon, Piedmont, that West OKC area, all that. If we can ever, kind of get on the same page, and I mean, there's great players out there. All the high school programs do well.
There's some grit out there, isn't there?
A little bit more blue collar, and so I'm like, I think I'm going to go for this. And Hampton was like, listen, jump at it, grab it with 2 hands, and he said, one day I might be calling you for a job, because you just you never know what happens in soccer, and that he said, trust me, from being the head of a massive organization, that sounds pretty nice to be over 30 teams or so and have a good staff. And so jumped at it. So it was still Energy West. There was still a year of the contract, the kind of branding contract, but at that time everybody was like, who are we playing on Saturday? Energy. We're playing Energy. It's like teams were ready kind of for their own identity. So we kind of made that decision early on, and it was nothing to do with not being against the Energy or getting away from Central or anything else like that, but there was no other benefit really other than the branding aspect of it. We weren't getting coach education. There was none of that type of thing. We got a discount ticket. So they kind of banded around, and I didn't want to push it too hard. It just so happened one of the incentives was to to try and educate and push coaches when we went in there. If we make the coaches better, hopefully in turn they make the players better, and it's secular like that. So we got him with the coaching manual. I was on the A license with Paul Bright. He's the director of the coaching manual, great guy out of Manchester. So we got all the coaches a license on there. So there's a load of sessions, ex-pros. You can design your session. So we would challenge the coaches. We, once every 2 weeks submit a session, so that if I'm doing a building out the back session on Monday, I can go in and see, okay, here's Brandon's session, here's Nick's, here's Senny's, and okay, I'm going to steal that. I'm not going to, whatever the case may be. So just more communication, more.
Like if it's a professional club, because if you're, let's say, the Rangers back home,
right,
and the head coach wants everyone to play, his team plays out of the back, why wouldn't everyone else play out of the back too? Because eventually the goal is to have those players play in the first team, so they all kind of have to follow the same philosophy.
Right.
So I see that.
Yeah. No, that was another big piece of it, and that's still the challenge today. To be honest, that we have a very structured. Here's how we want to play. Here's the players we want to try and develop. Like here's the profile. They got to be confident. They got to be creative. They got to be very, very comfortable on the ball and receive both feet, and then pair that with decision making. Are they smart? Are they scanning? Are they making it? So that's kind of the
philosophy.
Yeah, the philosophy, but trying to implement that.
It's different. That's hard.
Yep.
You have the plan, but you also have to work with what you have.
Yep.
And then be able to do what you can with that. And if not everybody can, well, it's a good start to be at. Now we know where we're going.
Sure. And even on the coaches' side, like. All the coaches have been very receptive and very open, but it's really trying to get that buy-in. Like, here's what I believe, and I didn't wake up one day and just come up with it, but over years and over time, working with players, like this works. Like, let's really try and push this. And you might not win the game on Saturday, but you put that kid in really uncomfortable positions, and so then they're gonna have to figure out a solution, and it might be failure the first 2 or 3 times, but once they start to figure that out, and then the other players around them are trying to help them and bail them out and move off the ball, and it's like, okay, now we got something that looks like the game a little bit, and it works. It's not overnight, but so it's just trying to get that same belief, and it's certainly getting there. We're on the right path, but
it takes time.
Yeah, it wasn't an overnight thing. Like, maybe I first thought it would be. So, sorry, back to the Rangers. So, Rangers actually partnered with the coaching manual. So basically, the coaching manual provided like a skeleton site. So, Rangers have run of it. So, Gary Gibson, and of course, must be all Gibsons in Scotland. Not a cousin. Everyone's like, "Is that your brother? Your uncle?" Nah.
No, it's kind of like a Perez or a Garcia.
That's right.
Or Hernandez.
Yeah. I think I went to school with like 4 or 5 different Gibsons. So Frank Gibson, we end up at USA altogether. So him and Ian Greer, they kind of, I got in touch with him like, well, what's this? And so we had a few Zoom calls, and I was like, it sounded really, really good. And to be fair, obviously my allegiance is to Glasgow Rangers. Like I grew up loving them, and but they're a top 20 academy in Europe. They have this double pass, it's called. So double pass basically goes to academy. They've done some in the US, all throughout Europe, England, Spain, and basically rate their academy based on whatever their system is. So Rangers basically ranked in the top 20 in terms of the things they're doing, the player development, the culture, all that stuff. So they were very, very transparent and sharing their stuff on the site. They were doing Zoom calls, like I was a Zoom call with Michael Beale. He's now the QPR manager, but he was Gerrard's assistant. Wow. He was a Liverpool 19s manager. I think he was over in Corinthians, and was like, he's probably one of the top minds. That if you look him up, in youth side, and he's obviously transitioned that. So it was just, they were very, very transparent. So I'm like, listen, said to Paul Bright, like, oh, you don't mind, but we're going to transfer it. And he's like, no, listen, it's kind of under the same umbrella, so no big deal, and it makes sense. So we were in that partnership. I think we signed like a 3-year, so our coaches all got access to that. They send coaches over. They've been over once for a little clinic. we obviously sent a team.
That's what I was going to ask. You guys sent a team out there, didn't you?
Yeah, so it just opens up something a little bit different. And then we were just brainstorming ideas. Did we go back to Canadian Valley? You know, there was loads of different things suggested, and you know, I didn't put it forward and I didn't vote, but you know, Oklahoma Rangers eventually was like, well, this just makes sense. You know, let's do this. So. You know, it didn't hurt my feelings.
That's awesome. And for you, you know, in your personal story, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was cool. And when they did the announcement and stuff, it got picked up. You know, back in Glasgow, one of the newspapers picked it up, and you know, a little quote in there and stuff. And then our followers on Twitter was going mad because you know, I don't think in the US, you know, Rangers and Celtic are followed like Man United and Liverpool, and it's that same. So it's a worldwide club. You know, supporters clubs in Dubai, China, Australia, you know, all over the place. The US. So no, it was pretty cool to see the kind of reach that, you know, little old Oklahoma Rangers kind of had for, you know, that split second.
That's funny, and I guess it's just a coincidence then, because I was going to ask. You have the Rangers over here, and you got the Celtic and Norman too. I guess that was just something that came up afterwards. Did you look back on it and say, "Well, that's kind of funny"? Yeah,
no, it is. It really is. And I'm not sure how that came about. I'd be interested in that story down in Norman. But I actually remember the very first game. Some of the boys still see me and say, "We remember what you said to us before that." It was like my very first time coaching, and we're playing a Celtic team, and you know, I'm saying like, "Listen, I'm from Glasgow, and you know, you're either blue or you're green, you know, and there's a whole lot more goes into it, Protestant, Catholic." You know.
Really? It goes that deep?
Yeah, very. Yeah, it was very bad for a while in terms of, you know, Old Firm. That's what they call it, Old Firm derby. So an Old Firm day, you wouldn't want to be out in colours.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm getting goosebumps just listening to this. Yeah.
Being at games with my dad and take your scarf off, you know, before we leave the stadium, so that's
real.
You know, and there's been, you know, tragedies, people in the wrong area, and so no, it's getting better. You know, it's
just part of the game. Yeah. That's the passion. You brought up that story, taking off your scarf. When I was on my honeymoon in Mexico, me and my wife got to see Liga MX. I think it was a playoff game, semifinals between Chivas and America. I'm a Chivas guy, and I had my Chivas jersey. They ended up going to penalty kicks, and the Chivas, we won, right? But we were on away soil. So as soon as I had seen that we won, I took my shirt off. I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the restroom. I was just in a muscle shirt. And I kid you not, walking into the restroom, I saw this big guy just getting the living pulp beat out of him because he had a Chivas jersey on. Came out and was crying. He was just like, they beat the crap out of me out there. And I told my wife, see, I told you. Right. You put that shirt in there and don't let anybody see it. Yeah. Because soccer just pulls that side of us out. Yeah. And
no, there's an ugly, dark side to it at times too. But you know, some of that's, you know, we joke in Scotland like the English league's like the plastic league, the tourist league. You know, you see Haaland scores a goal and he's celebrating. Everybody's got their cell phone up, you know, watching. Whereas, you know, we call it like limbs in Scotland. Everybody's just gone crazy and there's limbs everywhere. So a little bit more passion. And I get it sometimes. Like people text me over here, like the last Old Firm, Celtic beat Rangers 4-0, like. And I'm just miserable and a terrible mood. My wife's trying to joke with me. I'm like not speaking to her. Kids are not getting any attention. And one or two, like, you know, American parents or whatever coaches will. I'm like, nah. I'm not joking about this. It may be funny with a Liverpool man, whatever. But it's a bit, it's too serious at times, which is probably good. Why I never.
But I think we need that in our life. Yeah. Like we need those ups and downs because that kind of. What can I say it? If everything tasted good, if everything tasted like pizza, you'd get sick of it. You know, you need to have a bad dish with a good dish to be able to value the victories and the losses. Right. Yeah, that 4-0 loss, it hurt. But whenever Rangers won the league with Gerrard, was that not delicious?
Right. No, you're absolutely right. So the lows are low and but it makes it highs.
That's the kind of comparison I make with soccer and life. Because I've been asking a few people that have come in this question that if soccer was your answer, football was your answer, then what was your question? Right. What did football do for you? Why football for Danny? Right. What was your question that made you just stick to football? Because football is worldwide. Here in about a month, less than a month, the world's going to be shut down and it's just going to be football every day,
right?
Every morning. Why does football bring that out in us? Why does football make us want to kill people?
Right.
Why does football brings us so much joy? They were going over the story of when Maradona had won the World Cup.
Right.
And during that time, Argentina was just going through this bad patch. Like whatever, they had just gotten out of a war. It's just really bad. But when he had won that World Cup, there's stories of people who said, I was depressed. And the second he had scored that goal, I jumped for joy, and I had never felt that type of happiness. And it pulled people out of depression. It made people feel full when they were hungry. And now there's a church of Maradona down in South Argentina where you can get baptized.
I need to go do that.
Yeah, you do. Have you heard the story?
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story. And I would definitely, you have to renounce all your other religions and whatnot to become a part of that church, but that'd be great.
No, I love Maradona. Yeah, I think he's the best ever.
Think so?
Yeah, I really don't know how I got on to, like, being from Scotland. How you used to have like 4 or 5 channels on your TV.
Mm-hmm.
On Channel 4, they used to play the Italian football. So I'd watch a lot of Italian. So I think maybe first stumbled across them at Napoli. And but yeah, just always grew up watching videotapes of Maradona, and just that same chip on the shoulder, like kind of resonates with me a little bit. Play that type of way, but yeah, I think the best ever.
We grew up in a special time. You said that and I believe that everybody thinks they grew up in the golden era, but we were there for the old age and watched the transition into the new age. When I was coming and thinking of questions to ask, now that your daughters are in the football career, how different is that from your career and watching them start their career?
Right.
Because there's definitely pros and cons to it. But we might have touched on it a while ago, but what differences do you see that your daughters are going through than what you had to go through?
Yeah, everything. The 2012, we filmed the games, Yeah. And so we had that last Monday. I think it got rained out, so we got on a Zoom call, and so it was just everything's 30-second clips. Anything more than that,
It's like bored.
Yeah, it's like the TikTok or whatever.
It's ruining our brain, isn't it?
Just swipe on that. So it's trying to catch their attention. But we played the next game, and I thought there was a positive impact. They saw some things, that maybe from me just telling them, or I was doing it on the training field, it wasn't quite resonating with them. But they saw the little clips. They have access to them. And we do a lot of that stuff. Like I remember speaking to you at an event with Energy, but I was talking about soccer starts at home. So, if you allow your kid to come home from school and they'll just get on the phone or iPad, and you won't see them so we try and send little challenges out and involve the team. So this week it's Liliana, hey, we're doing right now with them different ways to flick the ball up, because they're starting to get on that where they're a lot more comfortable juggling. So you got to do 10 juggles after, but flick it up a different way. So then, all right, Lily did hers. She sends a video. You guys all have a week to submit yours, and then we'll move on to it. So we've kind of adapted a little bit. And COVID year I thought was crazy, but I thought we did a very good job. We jumped on.
Yeah, you even had a podcast for a little bit too.
Right.
And I was going to tell you that I didn't want to tell you at the beginning of the podcast. That's kind of why I started this.
Yeah.
When I had seen you start your podcast, I was like,
Brian,
dang it.
Yeah.
I had always had this idea of doing it.
Yeah.
And Danny's doing it.
Yeah.
And he's doing it great.
Nah.
I want to be just like Danny.
Yeah, no chance.
And what happened?
I mean, it was more so kind of filling the need a little bit, and we still plan on doing some things like Facebook Live. We did one with Adam not too long ago, kind of for our high school age kids, like getting on that college path. And I thought Adam's insight was great. I learned some stuff, like he's talking about Twitter, because he's not wrong. I'll get follows just because I'm director of club or off a 7-year-old with an Instagram.
That's that whole
20,000 followers, and it's like
Instagram is different.
Yeah,
the Twitter soccer space is just a different ballgame.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Gutierrez here, and
Byron,
he's very big into the and which rightly so, you learn so much from it. There's so many people giving out so much information on Twitter, and you can literally get lost. There's a soccer Twitter that if you didn't know existed, it's out there.
Oh yeah,
and that's so many people out there.
On the coaching, a lot of coaching resources, like they do if you hashtag Sunday share Sundays for whatever, you know, it sounds good on the hashtag, I guess, but a lot of people share the sessions, and so if you're struggling with something, you can look it up. There's question and answer deals, and but no, it's certainly different from that aspect, and it's cultural. I think, you know, I think talking to John Brown, you know, I listen. You might not know, but I listen to most of them.
Really?
Yeah. You know, John Brown was talking about it kind of culturally, just playing at home, and you know, I listened to what's his name, a podcast. Another Scottish guy. He covers a lot of La Liga. That'll come to me. He's got a phenomenal podcast, kind of like gets all the top players on it, whatever. But every player, I noticed that he speaks to, and probably from, you know, a couple of generations ago, grew up playing in the street, and most of them had older brothers or sisters.
Yeah, it's always the youngest.
So they're getting beat up a little bit, so they had to figure some things out. So, you know, that's the player kind of providing solutions in a non-structured way, whereas we just don't have that here in most environments. But, you know, like you're talking about futsal courts, you know, down on the south side and the Hispanic community, you know, some things I love, like Sundays we'll take the dog for a walk around Mustang, and every now and then you see a little family, you know, mum and dad are playing as well. It's like, okay, that's cool.
There you go.
It's starting to get that culture stuff. But the challenge for us is, how do we, if that's not happening, how do we make it happen? So there's lots of ideas we have that we need to implement. Free play, just opening up a field certain times, even providing some equipment if somebody just wants to go out and hit free kicks. As a 2005 boy, every Tuesday or Thursday,
he's out there.
We're on one side of the field, he's hitting free kicks on the other end. You know, some people might be like, let's move him, or he's been in the sun, you're like, oh, you see that on the top? It's like, but I'm like, that's brilliant. Yeah, keep doing your thing. I think these brothers are practicing. So
how do we promote that?
Yeah.
How do we push the free play? Because that's probably the biggest thing to the growth of, you know, our the future generations, just getting out there and playing. Because you only have a few hours twice a week, and then on Saturdays. So if they're not playing on their own, they are getting left behind.
Yeah. No.
So we're like, how do we promote that?
Right.
I think you touched on it very well. Is creating those challenges, that flick challenge, and turning it into something that you can, you know, similar to the ice bucket challenge. Oh, here's my 10 dribbles. I challenge Danny. Yeah. Show me your dribbles, and then maybe doing it that way or something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think there's ways to be creative, and I think people are, you know, gaps with other organised things. So like, you know, Garrett and Kit and, you know, all these other futsal, they're doing a great job, but it's just kind of another organised, another thing, you know, you got to pay for, and do private lessons, and, you know, again, I'm advocate for all of those things. I think there's value in all of it. You know, I think a couple of years ago, Kit even mentioned that on the last one, that was like, it blew up, like futsal, and, you know, I see it happen in Scotland as well. Like, people, we didn't call it futsal, you know, we just call it playing, but or in a school gym or whatever. But okay, now it's a little bit. So I think it fills that that need a little bit, but there still is obviously some structure to it. They talk about the methodology, and you know, there's certain bits like that that are being implemented. So no, it's just maybe,
play more.
Yeah, play more. Encourage that, and there's kids playing 4 or 5 times a week. The ones that are serious, and now they may have to. Mum and dad may have to take them and pay for that and whatever else. But I think it's that part of the culture, I think, is helping the outdoor. Maybe not having to do as much or compensate as much. But no, there's always ideas that we can put in and implement.
Maybe leveling up the high school game.
Right.
Probably, because that's another way for them to get touches. And I feel like that space, it's great where it's at, but it could use some more quality. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not to bash anybody that's doing any high school. I think high school is great. I love high school. But where some schools are organized, some aren't.
Right.
You know, where some have quality coaches, some have volunteers.
Sure.
So I don't know. I always like to ask because you know there's always room to grow, and if we think we've grown enough, then we're getting nowhere.
No, you can't stand still. You always gotta adapt and adjust, and you know, hopefully I'm always like that. Not just because I'm in this stage of life where I'm okay learning something and okay, maybe I was wrong about that and progressing, but I hope that I can continue that mindset, because I say that all the time with coaches. We'll have a monthly coaches meeting, and okay, I'm going to present something like we were talking about constraints in soccer. I read a good book talking about constraints, and constraints kind of a negative word, like comes off like, well, why are you constraining something or restricting? But it's basically like, and I've implemented it very simplistically in the game. So if we're trying to switch the point of attack, or if we're trying to encourage more width on the field, then make the field wider. You know, or maybe shorter, but the field's wider. If we're trying to focus on, you know, breaking lines or getting runs in behind, then the field's a little bit more narrow. So that, and then before we kick off, I go to the blue team. Hey, you guys are 1-0 down. You know, you got 5 minutes left. We want to see if you can get a winner, and then go to the other team. You know, if you guys can get a clean sheet.
Trying to motivate them.
Yeah. Just set up different scenarios, and rather than the scrimmage just kind of fizzling out at the end of the session, it's now focus on some things, or you know, say we're focused on the counter press. If you guys can win the ball back in the attacking third and score, you get 2 goals. So it's but during those meetings, like I'm like, don't just sit here and listen to me and what's Danny talking about? This is nonsense, and can't wait to get out. Like, challenge me on it, because then it'll probably make me better, because okay, I need to explain this, or
because if you have a question, somebody else might have the same question.
Yeah. So I'm always trying to set up that environment. I don't know, a lot of the time they'll just come and listen and you know, take that, and maybe it's because it was great and they agreed with it, but I think a lot of the time it needs to be give and take. It can't be Oklahoma Rangers, Danny Gibson, here's how everything's going to be. I think there's certainly time, like we're saying with the philosophy and everything, we don't want to deviate too much from style of play, so there may be times, it's got to be this way, but I think just those conversations make us better and hopefully improve us all around. So yeah.
You said where you are in life. Where are you in your life right now?
Yeah, it just feels like a blur.
I'm just reacting right now?
Yeah. So, like, Lorenzo, my boy, finally got a boy after 3 girls.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, my thing's not working right now. It's frozen. It's recording, but...
You need to edit that in, yeah.
I hear you.
Paid my dues. So he's a year and a month. He turned 1 last month. So, like we were talking about before, Brittany went back to... she's back working full-time, so just me and him... trying to keep him alive on a daily basis. Keeping him alive.
Yeah. I feel that. If you're not a parent, you don't know what you mean, but you got to feed him, poop him, burp him.
That's right. Get the other kids to where they need to be, school and everything. So everyone's a bit of blur, and like you said, the responsibilities of, being the director. We hear from parents and joke all the time, like at Taylor Park, where we train in Yukon, there's a restroom. It's kind of off to the side. You got to walk across a little bridge. So the amount of people that come up to me during the set, do you have a key for the restaurant? I'm like, I'm the director of the restaurant. Yeah. That's my role. Or they'll ask me about socks, like, hey, I didn't get my socks yet. Okay, not really my wheelhouse, but yeah, I'll point you in the right direction.
Maybe like Sir Alex Ferguson, you might have to give that job to someone else.
Right, yeah, and I think that's the thing, and we're getting there. That's the next step. Just trying to figure out the things that are out with my control.
To give them to somebody else, because that's the next step. Kind of like a business, you know. I want to be able to do all of this, but boy, would it help me if I had somebody that could edit the podcast.
Right.
But not only that, I also have to be willing to give it up, because if I want it to be done right, I want to do it myself.
Sure.
But that just comes with it, you know. It's the aches and pains of it.
Yeah. And I think one of the areas of success that we had. Change is difficult, and then if you use soccer, change almost becomes an excuse. So if I change the coach from 1 year to the next, well, we're kind of thinking about looking at another club, but now we're definitely going to do it. So me coming in, there was a bit of a there was an outgoing, but to be honest, like I don't know the full story situation before, and I'm not really that interested, to be honest. I have a lot of respect for the job people were doing before, but here's how we want to do things type of thing. So when I completely lost my train of thought, my phone went there.
You were talking about the positions and cutting coaches out from others.
So one of the areas we were like, let's focus on was the academy groups, the foundation stage. So they're coming in at 5-6 years old, and they come into the competitive club at 11. So can we put a lot of energy and focus into that, so that then we're hopefully growing not only good players but some more numbers, and now we're bringing them into the competitive club. And it wasn't to say we were ignoring the competitive or just saying you guys are. It was just a bit more intentional. Like let's get after that. And I think we had real success. Our 12 group on the boys and girls were kind of that first group that transitioned in competitive, and both brought in two good groups, good coaches, good players. But that's another area, like I'm kind of fulfilling both of those roles at the moment, the academy director and the competitive. So I would like to at some stage have one of my coaches or open it up for interview, or wants to come in and take that role and organise the games and implement the training, that whatever else that we're currently doing, because just be one thing off my plate, and
honestly, then you'd be able to do everything else a little bit better. Right. But it's true what you said. Like the Great Hampton says, you're planting those seeds for those young ones, so you can bear the fruit with them when they are able to go into the competitive game. Yeah. How many teams does Rangers have at the moment?
I think we're on the competitive side. We're around 25, and then on the academy side, it's like 10, 15. It's a lot of them are 4v4, a little bit smaller groups. So I think it's around 10 or 12.
It's like 30 plus teams.
Yeah.
And then that means what? 15 coaches.
Yeah, about that. Yeah. That's one thing that you get the complaints, and you sit with the board at times, and we got to do this and that. You take a step back. I'd say we're in a pretty good spot in terms of. I think the staff is in a good place. We managed to get some really good coaches involved, and they're really buying in. They're enthusiastic. The players are enjoying it with them. So I'm like, it's not all doom and gloom at times. Like take that little step back, have a breather. And,
but it can be. I mean, as the director with almost 300 players under your watch, 15 coaches. If you sat down and tried to listen to everyone's problems, it would seem like there's just full of problems. Right. But you, like you said, need to pull yourself back and just realize that if these are the problems I'm dealing with, and it might just be good problems to have. Sure. You know what I mean? But how do you do it? How do you disconnect? How do you just remember that life is just what you have in front of you? Right.
Well, I'm fortunate that Brittany grew up in the game, and I think her favorite time of the week is going out in the fields and watching the kids, and so it's not so much that I have to completely turn away from it. But there's certainly times where it's been like, all right, after 9 o'clock, phone's off, and don't no more calls or emails or whatever else, and there's certainly areas I can improve on, because at times it probably is all consuming for the kids too, because they're all playing and they're all on it too. So it's like
both daughters are playing as well.
Yeah, Liliana's at 12 and Lorelai 2015, and I got all the L names, so it's like tongue twisted. Lennox, she's 5, and she's just kind of started getting involved. Me and Alyssa Jones, we split that. A lot of groups, so a lot of patience. But again, it's a fun little group, fun age.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a lot, but at times I'm complaining about doing. Actually, would you change? Would you change? You living in America, you have 4, beautiful kids. Your wife, you're working in the game, so
I mean, you went from being in Scotland, playing, trying to find where to play, going to USAO, wanting to go back, graduating. Am I going to coach? I'm going to coach. Yeah. Start coaching. Hey, get on with energy. Get on any way you can. To now having 300 players and 15 coaches plus under your belt. Right. So what are you going to do next?
Yeah, I mean, the plan is just to
grow.
Yeah, keep growing it, and really enjoying working with Oklahoma City FC. Done my second season just there. So again, that was a cool opportunity. Evan Dressel, he met with it. I think he was doing like technical director. I think he was watching the English Premiership or something and gave himself that role. Like, every team's got a technical director. I'm definitely going to take that. So
it has a good ring to it.
Yeah, fair play to him. Yeah. So I think it was kind of a bit of a chance meeting. We'd had some meetings with, believe it or not, Celtic about potentially doing something together. So Sean Jones was involved with that. It didn't quite work out. Again, at the time, I was like, well, I just want to crack on with what we're doing. But a lot of respect for those guys there too. But I think Sean had mentioned, so we met with Evan, and was like, yeah, well, let's have a crack at that. That'd be great. And obviously having 3 daughters, and I don't know what time, because I said my first team was 97 boys, and I worked with some younger age group boys. But at a certain point, I kind of gravitated a little bit more towards the women's game, and so not really enjoying it. The talent is ridiculous, and it's just adjusting. But for me, everything is still development. I think Sean and the owners and stuff, you want to win games, but he understands, because he's coaching side, and he's had his own daughters go play the top levels, so he understands. For me, whether I'm coaching Lennox's little fives or some Drea Hampton played, Lorna Vala, JC Jones, all these that have had college careers but have still wanted to continue playing. It's still like, how can we put you in a position to improve, get a little bit better? Of course, we want to have success in terms of wins, and that's maybe more so an area I can improve, like, all right, tactical changes, and maybe not throwing in that 18, 19-year-old. But for me, I just, it's all about development. And
that's what I was going to ask. Where is your fine line with development or winning?
Right.
Like, where does that teeter for you?
Yeah. Youth side development. And like I've said, I'm fiery and I'm passionate. You have to want to win. There's got to be that culture. When you're in training, you got to compete, and we try and make it as competitive as possible in training, so that the game's almost easier than what you've been doing. So, like, you walk past my session, you'd be like, this guy's a lunatic. Like, not necessarily screaming at the kids, but trying to have that high energy, so that they can deal with it on the weekends. But so that's a big piece of it. We get away from that too often. I think, like, winning doesn't matter. It does matter, but it's how we're achieving that. And I just think in the game, and it's no knock on anybody, but a coach will sometimes think, well, I'm doing them a service here by providing them the solution. So the solution is their right midfielder is really, really good. So let's double up on them. But all right, so what did it say about those 2 players that had to double? What did they focus on their game, or did they just focus on the opponent? So you stopped the opponent. If you won the game, you kicked it down the field, and the kid made a mistake. He scored the goal. So, but for me, I'm going, well, my team was trying to play, so this kid got 50 touches on the ball, and they messed up this many times, but they made this many decisions, and they're looking for this. So that's kind of where my whole philosophy is with it. And I'm open to other things with most stuff, but with that, I'm like, I just don't think I don't think there's another way. I just think that's how we learn. If kids learning piano, they go to the teacher and they think, oh, well, you hit the wrong note there, or you played the wrong chord, but they're really going to figure it out when they go home and they're going through, and I heard it there. That was the wrong one, or didn't feel right, whatever the case. So all learning is kind of that way, but then we get into there's a competitive aspect of it, which I think we've addressed, but they've got to have that freedom, and if we can give them that, then we get players that are creative, technical, and ones that can make good decisions, and that's basically the game. And so then at that level, you probably are. All right, we'll go and use that and go win the game type of thing. But I'm all development, even with that top level team, and they want to win, so we've got to put them in a position to do it. But I've done my job. If the kid that's a freshman in college, didn't play much, came in the summer and got a bit more playing time, confidence, then went back in and improved the minutes or whatever it is. Yeah.
It's funny because 2 points here. It's point number one is it sounds a lot like parenting.
Right.
You want to be able to. I wish I can give all my son the answers, but how far is that going to take him?
Right.
And you have to let him go and make the mistakes so that he can learn. And even if it's just drawing a picture, my son loves to art. He loves to draw. I can't be standing over him and be like, you messed up there. You messed up there. Let me do this for you. No, just let him do his thing. And maybe if I can, I'll try to correct them. But if not, the next one will be better. That's kind of how it is.
Right.
Point number two, when I was speaking to Adam, I had that same question. Similar. It was like, hey, winning or developing? Youth side, developing. But where he said he enjoyed it the most was when it was winning. When winning was the only option that he had.
Sure.
That's when, and it's so different because he was speaking on his role when he was at Mid-America, and he kind of felt guilty being in a position of bringing in better players and knocking out the ones that were already playing. But like I had mentioned to him, it just depends on how you look at it, because it can be all about winning, but then it also just depends on the player too. If everything is all about winning and I'm not getting what I want, am I going to blame the coach? Or am I going to internalize and say, all right, I'm obviously not doing something right. What can I work on?
Right.
That's me figuring out my own answer as opposed to somebody else coming and saying, let me fix this for you so you can have it your way. You know what I mean? So it's a difficult thing to teeter. And then as the DOC, like, you wish you can be like, hey, I want all my coaches to win all the games. Well, that's impossible because we, from what I'm hearing, want to develop players.
Sure.
That's just the bottom dollar.
And it's mixed message at times. Like, we don't post on Oklahoma Rangers Facebook. Hi, the 2013 boys, connected 7 passes and created 20 chances to their 4, but lost 3-0. Yeah, we post them when they win a tournament or they fight. So it's a little bit mixed. But no, like you're saying, for me, I don't think there's any person that made it to the top level of any career really, whatever they were chasing, but particularly in sports, that didn't have one of those moments, a setback, a failure, somebody came in and took your spot. So there's those feelings of guilt, and I have them too, particularly on the youth side. I really like this kid, I like the family, but here's what's going to be better for them to go drop down and play on this team, and the fact that somebody coming in to replace them shouldn't be seen as personal, but how do you then react? And I tell them all the time, I hope you prove me wrong, and I hope that's now the opportunity you take, and it fuels something in you to go react and improve, and I love being proved wrong on those type of things, but it's difficult to get across. And I don't think kids have enough adversity these days, and we're talking about helicopter parents, somebody's talking about like lawnmower, where they go out in front of the kid and cut all the grass before they walk, so they want to prepare everything. I'm probably guilty of it too. I set the kids' lunches out and get the clothes ready in the morning, and if the house is disaster, I'm losing my head, but I'll clean it. I won't hold them. So it's little things like that. But I think if you ask 99% of soccer parents, sports parents, why do you put your kid in? Some of them will be honest. I want them to be professional. I want them to be the best. But most of them life lessons.
Yes.
So it's like, well, let's let that play out. And of course, we want to. There's times where I'm like, I can maybe alter the way I said something, or you're right, you should have had 15 minutes rather than. But let's see how they react to it, and can we help them through those things? Like, we're not just all adversity and all negativity, but I think kids need a little bit more of that.
They do.
In society. So I think it's a difficult thing to kind of, it's an obstacle you got to clear, but I think we got to use sports and soccer to teach some of those things, and hopefully it makes them
better human beings,
better prepared,
positive people in society that contribute in a positive way as opposed to the negative.
Right.
DOCs go through all these difficult decision making, and I just feel like there aren't very many conversations like these where these are things that keep you up at night.
Sure.
You don't just make these decisions and rule off the person that didn't get to play. No, you're thinking about them all the time. You're thinking about all the players, but it's just impossible to check everyone's box.
Right.
And it's funny, I had that great conversation with Hampton. I didn't even get to touch on his DOC side of it, and I wish I would have. But having you here to talk about it just makes me realize that, man, that's a difficult job.
Yeah. You get him back on for a part 2. That was good. Once a big dog came on, I was like, okay, I gotta get myself on there.
Yeah.
He gave it a blue check mark.
I got the blue check mark now.
Yeah.
I had been asking, but you're busy, and I understand that, and I know that eventually our paths were gonna cross too. So I didn't want to put too much stress on it.
No, not at all. Yeah, my ears were burning a few. Like, jump on Danny Gibson. Someone say my name there on the podcast. I put it on, like I was saying, cleaning the house, doing the laundry or something, or I'm working it. I'll just stick the podcast on, and kept hearing like, but we're trying to get him on. I'm like, okay, I gotta get with Ricardo.
We're going to. That's my thing. It's like, well, we're going to. Whoever anybody wants to have on, we'll get them on eventually.
Right. No, enjoyed it, and enjoyed listening, and I think, you guys are doing a great thing, and all your different events. Joe was working with us for a little bit before he went up to school, so great relationship with him, but just growing the game and highlighting different areas, because there's been one or two where I'm like, I don't know this person, but I'm going to stick it on and say, that's interesting. They work in a high school game, or they're working on different aspects of it, and I think sometimes not like a snobbery or anything like that, like looking down your nose, but we sometimes maybe don't. We're kind of in our lane and focused on certain things, so that's
only normal.
Yeah.
That's normal, and that's one of the positive things that I've noticed about this, is that not only do I take apart my positive side from it, but I've had a few people on that I have no idea who they are, what they do. There's going to be an episode coming out here in a few weeks about a strength and conditioning coach who goes around. He works with Sport House, and his way of looking at physics and the physical body and nutrition just made so much sense to me. And his point of view was like, we need more people like them in our clubs, in our high schools, in our college programs, because all these top tier programs have strength and conditioning coaches.
Right.
But why? And he just broke it down to how important it is for our kids to recover, how negative it is to have all these kids just overloaded all the time.
Right.
We miss the resting aspect of our physical body. Like, we can go 100 miles an hour, but if we don't rest, that's doing us no good.
Right.
And those are some of the stories that I think just benefit all of us. So I don't want to toot my own horn at all, but I hope people take all of the stuff that gets said and just kind of use it for their own good.
Yeah, take a little piece of I like listening to podcasts, like I said, earlier, but every now and then you pick something up. I'm going to use that, tonight, or a little motivational thing, or they talked about a session that they done. Like, I'm gonna pick that up, or I'm gonna look into that. Like you said, we've tried to focus a little bit around that. We got Seni, and he's a strength conditioning trainer as well. Like he's 8 to 5 type of thing. So we've kind of tried to launch different programs and stuff with varying success, but it's obviously a huge part of it. Like, again, like going way back to the start there, you come in freshman year and you're skin and bone and all these guys in the weight room and
playing against foreigners that are coming in as 22-year-old freshmen. So it's like, what do you do? You know?
Yeah.
So that's, and another box that I want to check is the psychological side of the game. I'm working on getting a sports psychologist on.
Brilliant.
Someone that can just tell me the importance of why confidence is something so important on the pitch. Right. That's something you can train it, but like you can be the best player in the world, but if your confidence in your head isn't there, then you're just not there. Why is that so important?
Right.
You touched on it a little bit as well when you first showed up here at USAO, and it's just that first year would have been massive for you if you would have taken it. But yeah.
No, I think like we touched on that, the 4 areas of the game. There was nothing on the mental aspect, and I think that was my biggest hurdle. I sometimes, trying to learn from my mistakes when I'm speaking to players. Like, if I'd maybe had that bit of advice, or I, speak to somebody, or here's a coping mechanism, like talk about that, like dragon breath or warrior breath. Like, okay, forget about, because I'd be obsessing about a missed pass, a bad touch that happened in minute 1 and it's now minute 30, and I'm got myself worked up and I've kicked the opponent yellow card, whatever the case may be. But I always thought that, so now coaching, I'm like, got to try and be really aware of that side of things. And but yeah, there's not enough of that, and we're kind of seeing the culture shifting a little bit. You see all the stuff coming out the NWSL where there's been some terrible allegations, and but it's just maybe having that person within the club, a counsellor type deal, whatever it is, I think would be very valuable for most youth clubs and transitioning into the upper levels of the game.
How many red cards have you gotten throughout your life?
To be honest, I never got red carded at USAO, but Hampton, he knew there was potential. So I think sometimes there was times I'd maybe leave the field frustrated. He didn't play me as much. The game was going that way. It's chippy, and I remember just one story. Played St. Greg's. I don't know who the player is, so maybe he'll know. Frank Gibson put in a horrible tackle. He was known for that, just shocking.
Frank Gibson is the centre back that was the bald one?
Blonde.
Blonde one.
Yeah, bald one's Parkinson's. Got
Parkinson's. That's the guy I remember just taking everything out of the box.
Yeah, and he's gone on. He's a fantastic coach. He was head coach of Gotham until recently. So he, kind of like you guys say about Mid-America, I love to see the trajectory of the USAO guys. A lot of them doing some great things. Yeah, killing it. Whatever career they're in, but Frank put in a bad tackle, and so everybody's all kind of ran over. Handbags. There's a throw in, so I'm backing into this kid. I've heard the noise first, touched the back of my head. He spat in the back of my head.
No.
So Hampton was here with this camera, so I'm going, it's just spat in the back of my head. Okay. So Hampton subbed me off and said to their coach, "Hey, the ref didn't see it, linesman. You might want to have a word with this kid because, he's saying he spat in the back of his head." So I never reacted. So I'm like, because somebody spits on you.
That's one of the few things that for me just
you got to pass.
Turn the table over.
Yeah, you
cannot spit on anyone. That's
but
grading. I can't. It just makes my blood boil thinking about it.
Right, we had these conversations. So I'm like, I won't react. Just told him, shove me off. I didn't go back in the rest of the game. I'm sure in his head he's gonna go over the top of the ball or something there.
He's lucky he didn't catch an elbow just standing behind you.
Yeah, but the other coach subbed him off, but put him back in. I'll always remember that, some lesson he taught him that day, But I don't know who the coach was, or so it's nothing personal. But it's
like one of those things that just, unfortunately, when the game goes on, for some people it pulls out a different side of them.
Right.
I was playing in an adults tournament here at Oktoberfest, and there was some guy just running his mouth, and I just got tired of hearing him. He just crossed the line, and I remember we were this close to him, and it's been years since I've had some type of confrontation like that in a soccer game. It felt good. But after the game was over, I dapped it up with him and just like, "Hey man, good game."
Yeah.
All right, man. And it's just, sometimes you can leave it on the field, sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
But it's part of the game.
Yeah.
Man.
No, I'm definitely that. I don't think as a coach, it's been maybe one or two, but not too many. I think I can push it to the line, and then I'm going to get sent off here, and it's not going to be good for my reputation. The board's going to hear Danny got sent off, and the kids are going to then be without the coach, and then what message is that sent? So it's a big learning curve trying to learn, and like you said, I think at times I'll take it to, but then after the game goes, I always go try and shake the hands of the other team or whatever. I think that for me is important on the youth side. But for whatever reason, maybe COVID, and maybe because of that, so many teams now just run off the field. So then I'll be like,
"What do you mean, like run off the field?"
Full-time whistle, they'll just run to their bench, rather than
and you're kind of saluting everybody. Yeah.
Whereas I'm always like, girls go, whoever, go over there and tell them good game, because it's that's part of it. Shake the hand even if you lost, even if this kid did something to you during it. Go.
Yeah.
It's important to have that respect for the game, for the other team, for the officials.
That respect.
Yeah. You have to. So, no, I think I push it to the line, but I'm trying to, as I get older, kids in the game, everything else, try and tone it down. slightly, but I don't think I ever want to lose that.
That
passion.
fire. Yeah. You can't, because then you wouldn't be you.
Right.
So when it comes to watching your daughters play, like how do you handle that fire? Because you're not the coach, right?
No. I am.
So how are you as the parent? Are you just?
Well, I do coach. I coach Lily, Laura. And involved with Lennox's group too. So
how's the dynamic then?
It's difficult. I'll be honest. It's I think there's probably examples of coaches maybe favouring the player, and maybe some might accuse, but I think I'm harder on her. And then it's funny, she gets in the car and then she hears it from mum. You know, so it's like everything you read and listen to. It's like you shouldn't create that environment, but I think it's tougher. But she's flourishing. She's doing really well. She's I think will turn out to be a top player, and she's loving it. She's wanting to train all the time, want to guest play with different teams and stuff. So I think we'll cross that bridge likely pretty soon. I think I've probably had her long enough where go hear a different voice and get that experience. So but no, I'd say that it's certainly a balance of because in the house I get on to my talk back. Hey, be quiet. Or whatever the case may be on the field. If you say that, well, now I'm coach, and if any of your teammates said that to me, we'd have to have a conversation. They'd be sitting down. So it's like
the lines get blurred a little bit, don't they?
So she has kind of additional responsibilities, and then the reality is there's at times a target on her back. One, because I think she's a good player, and she likes to dribble. So with that, it's like the Jack Grealish thing, like most fouled player, because he's dribbling more. Like I think Liliana is a little bit like that too. Sometimes, some coaches say get the ball off your foot. Like again, we don't encourage that. Like, well, at a certain point you'll figure out that solution, but we like players to have the confidence to dribble. But then being coach's kid, I'm sure it comes with that as well, and then being fiery.
Yes, I was going to ask, does she have the Gibson fire in her?
Yeah. There's certainly a little bit of that. My wife's the same way. Like I said, she comes from Mexican family, so it's like there's fire meets fire. Yeah,
it's a soccer family.
Yeah, for sure, big time soccer family. So she's enjoying it as long as that's that's the thing, and we'll keep trying to provide opportunities and challenges and everything. And then it's funny, my middle daughter Lorelai, she's a sweet one, middle child. Like Lennox gives it to her, Lily does too. And we put a lot of focus in, obviously, but with Lily being older, there's maybe more time spent. But she's just starting to play 7v7. They're kind of transitioning for 4v4, and she's a little calm, left-footed player. Like she looks like she's developing into a good little player too, without kind of Lily's all action, whereas Lorelai sees to read the game and understands it. So it's just maybe slightly different, not approach on parenting, because we love them the same and parent them the same. But it's funny how they've both kind of found a path within the game. But no, they're enjoying it, and we just signed them up for basketball with a bunch of the soccer. So it's like go experience some other things as well, because can't all be this, because then it's
then you never know, she might pick something up from basketball. She might, reading the space in basketball might help her notice it more in soccer. You never know. And it brought up a point, you bringing up your two kids and how different their personalities are on the pitch. Do you think the personality of a player on the pitch kind of comes naturally, or is that something that is built through the environment that they're brought up in? Kind of like when you have a baby. Is the personality born with the baby, or does the personality come from the environment that they're brought in?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's obviously influence and impact that the environment has, but you kind of know it's the same having kids. You can almost see their personality straight away. Like Lorelai was that way, just kind of very sweet and docile, and kind of would stay with it, where Lennox was a firecracker, and now she's still bouncing off the wall. So you can kind of see that, and it's just it's the same in the game. I think personality is a good thing, and so like in the locker room and on the field, like go show them who you are. you don't want to just be part of the game. You want to be somebody that
add your little flavor to it.
Yeah, they speak to it. So within, and we're probably not there yet, but you know, people talk about the academies, Man City, Liverpool. They're all playing very similar. You know, it's all a little bit robotic at times, and I'm sure there are absolutely things they're doing that make it not that way. Like, look, last night, 17-year-old scored for Man City on his debut in Champions League. So they're obviously doing a fantastic job, but everyone's kind of similar, kind of goes through these phases. So it's so important when you got that little bit of difference and not to massage that out of them. So if you got a kid that likes to dribble, or one that likes to, you know, cross the ball, or they shoot from, or one that loves to tackle, like, I'll tell parents that all the time, like, this kid was a bit over the top, and I told him to keep his hands down. It's like, well, yeah, we want to teach him how to tackle, right, but don't
let him lose that flair, because what do coaches always say? Some coaches say, stick to what you're good at. Right. And if your kid's good at tackling, but he's just not there yet, well, we can fix that. Yeah. But let's not let him lose that, like you said.
Right. And I'm guilty of that sometimes too. Focus on the weakness. Well, that's it. They've got some great strengths, and we want to maybe improve. Let's improve the left foot, or how's your first touch, whatever it is. But let's really dive into those strengths and see, you know, where that can take you, type of thing. So, no, I think. I like to see that a little bit of personality on the field, and you know, sometimes you get a lot more on the boys' side, like we were talking about the maturation, when they mature at what stage. But you know, boys will give you a little bit back, you know, and you might be like, "Hey, be quiet," you know, have a bit of respect at this time. But there's a time and place for it. But sometimes it's like, well, that's good, because this kid, you know, you can see he's got a little bit of give and take. He's okay having a laugh and a joke, and so now we can maybe pull something different out of that kid. So no, I think that's it. That's really, really important. But I think some of it will be a product of the environment, and
it's kind of like why the Brazilians play that way they play. That's probably because the environment that they're in and how everybody else plays. So they kind of nurtured that style of play from there. But I guess it's a little bit of both.
No, absolutely. You got to take something from mom and dad, and you know, their home life and siblings, whatever else. But no, I think it's allowing them that little bit of freedom to express it, not taking that out the game by providing solutions or too much information.
Nice. Well, do you have anything else to add before we let go? Because we are touching 2 hours right now. That's quick, isn't it?
Yeah.
2 hours like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that can talk for Scotland. That's like literally like one of the things I say I need to do better with brevity. Like, get to the point, bang, and I'll move on. So I didn't do very well there.
No, you did great. Yeah. You did great. I want to bring up one thing and see what you tell me about this, because I had this pulled up. Your favorite quote.
You have to remind me, I'm sure.
Although talent feels and looks predestined, in fact, we have a good deal of control over what skills we develop. We have more potential than we might ever presume to guess. By Daniel Coyle.
I believe he's the author of the Talent Code, and you're talking about Brazil. So he basically travelled around. He went to, I think, Dallas. Why did they create the best country artists? Why is it out of this little place in, you know, a little music place in Dallas? And you know, why are the Russians the best ballet dancers, and why Brazil? So he basically, you know, travelled there to figure out what's going on. And I think I'll mess up the name of it, but you can basically build that brain cell for talent type of thing. If you you know, you're basically failing, you're doing it, you're failing, you're repeating it a bunch of times, but then, you know, once you provide that solution, then it's like a coil, it's wrapping around, it's getting thicker. And so I just think we sometimes put limitations on ourselves. Like, you know, we did a coaches. I did a session with the 13 boys a couple of weeks ago, and the coaches came and watched, and you know, some of the stuff. So my kids can't do that. Well, you know, these kids have never done that before today, but you know, let's break it down. Let's challenge them on it, and if they can't do it, that's great. Then it's something that they've got to work on. So I think sometimes we limit ourselves on that, and it's the same. You know, well, how's Oklahoma ever going to compete with Dallas or with Texas? They got however many more. Well, why is Croatia creating play? Why is Belgium world superpower? You know, but in these small, it's because they're culturally there's a lot to do with it, but they're not limiting themselves on. So I'm kind of a big believer in that. Like, Mustang Yukon, yeah, like it's football country, and no, I think we can do something out here if we approach it the right way and we really work towards it and don't put limits on them, challenge them every day, and kind of see where we can get to.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. Well, we'll end it there. That's a good point to leave it at. Danny, if you ever have anything you want to promote, the mic is yours, so you're always welcome to come back. Just let me know and we'll make it happen. But other than that, I appreciate you for coming on, man. This was great.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This went by too fast.
Yeah.
Too fast.
Appreciate it, mate. I'll have to go pick up the kids now. But
I have to. From here, I'm going to go print out invitations for a 5-year-old's birthday party. And then I got to go work at my in-laws because that's where my daughter is. And then at 3, I'll pick up my son, go home, wait till my wife gets off at 5, and then have 2 or 3 hours work by myself, get off at 8. And
the full slate. This will be making hundreds of thousands in no time.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Who else am I going to try to get their ear burning? Lexi, I'm coming for you. He messaged me and he said he wanted to come on, but he was in England at the time.
Yeah.
So
he can't follow me, Lexi, no chance.
No?
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. he was my coach at USL, great guy, and he'll have all kinds of stories. He'll talk for 4 hours probably. So,
really?
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Yeah.
That's what I need. Yeah. Well, Danny, I appreciate you for coming on. Where can we find you? Where can we find the Rangers?
Yeah, okrangersfc.com, and then we're on all the socials, and then I think mostly Twitter, kind of active on there. So I think it's Danny _Danny _Gibson.
Nice.
The Twitter handle. So yeah.
Well, that has been another episode of the Mas Futbol podcast with Danny Gibson. Later, guys.